Monkey D. Dragon is one of the most mysterious characters in the story of One Piece, and he's a character that we've known for a pretty long time. Of course, he was introduced in chapter 100, but we actually didn't find out about him being Luffy's dad until chapter 432. And honestly, it wasn't until 900 chapters in that he actually did something to impact the story. And he didn't even do anything himself, he just asked Sabo and the officers to go and attack the world government. But yeah, despite the fact that Dragon is one of the most important characters in the story, he's had a severe lack in screen time. And because of that, I think he's become one of the most underrated and underestimated characters in the story. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down everything we know about Monkey D. Dragon, and we're going to try to figure out how he's going to impact the story and just how strong he might be. But first off, the King Pirates crew is now over 35,000 members. If you are new to the crew, make sure to say hi in the comments. And if you're not part of the crew, hit that subscribe button and join us on this adventure. But yeah, Monkey D. Dragon, the leader of the Revolutionary Army, he's the most wanted man in the world, but how did he get there? Well, right now, we don't know the answer, but we could try to look at the clues that Oda has dropped. Starting off with this backstory, Dragon, just like Garp and Luffy, was born and raised in the Goa Kingdom, and while we don't know the exact details of how he grew up and what really influenced him, I think the fact that he grew up in the Goa Kingdom was definitely a major influence to him starting the Revolutionary Army. The Goa Kingdom, as we saw in the Ace flashback, is a prime example of inequality in the One Piece world. The kingdom is incredibly segregated. At the very top, you have the royal palace where the royalty live. Right below that, at the center of the kingdom, you have the high town where a lot of the nobles live. Expanding out from that, you have the town center where a lot of normal people live. And as you get further and further away from the center, you get to Edge Town where a lot of the poorer people live. But then the worst part is they have an actual wall separating them from the Great Terminal where pretty much the homeless people live. And that's also where they decide to just toss all the trash and garbage. So clearly, growing up in a place like that, you're definitely gonna see the different inequalities between people. Even somebody like Sabo, who was born in a richer family, saw the differences in how people were treated. And of course, he hated it so much that he decided to run away from home to live equally with everyone else. So for Dragon, you gotta think growing up in a place like that definitely had a lot of influence on his ideals. Even somebody like Luffy, who's not the smartest person in the world, saw the different ways people were being treated. And personally, I think growing up in the Goa Kingdom definitely had a lot of impact on Garp, but we'll save that for another video. But yeah, besides growing up in the Goa Kingdom, the next time we find out more information about Dragon's life is at Roger's execution. Dragon, as we saw, was present at Roger's execution, which I don't think is very surprising. Roger's execution was a pretty big deal. You had people like Shanks and even Mihawk at it as well. So Dragon being there doesn't really surprise me, but I do wonder if Roger left an impact on him. Did Roger's final words that started the next pirate age inspire Dragon in some way to start the Revolutionary Army? I could definitely see a scenario where Dragon was starting to develop his ideals, seeing the inequalities in the world, and then once Roger made his move and completely shifted the tides of the world, Dragon decided to make his move and start the Revolutionary Army. Another interesting thing a lot of people pointed out was that Dragon didn't have his face tattoo at Roger's execution, so that could be another hint that he had yet to start the Revolutionary Army because that tattoo could be some kind of symbolism for it. Beyond that though, we do have some critical information from the Weaver cards as well. First off, it explained that at some point Dragon realized how rotten this world was, and that's why he decided to start the Revolutionary Army. So I think once again that kind of ties back to his origins in Goa Kingdom and seeing the inequalities. It also gets confirmed in the Weaver card that Dragon did start the Revolutionary Army between Roger's execution and the birth of Luffy. So once again, this is something else that makes me believe that Roger starting the Great Pirate Age kind of influenced and inspired Dragon to make his move and start the Revolutionary Army. How many times have I said start the Revolutionary Army so far? But besides that, the next thing that really interests me about Dragon is his family, specifically Luffy and Luffy's mother. Because based off the info that we have, it seems like Dragon started the Revolutionary Army either before Luffy was born or pretty much right after he was born. So this makes me incredibly interested in the type of person Luffy's mom was and what her story was. Because even if Dragon started the Revolutionary Army before he had Luffy, you gotta wonder why he decided to start a family after starting a Revolutionary Army. And honestly, I think the answer to that has to come down to Luffy's mom and what type of relationship and story they had. Of course, there's a lot of theories surrounding Luffy's mom. Maybe she's a celestial dragon, maybe she's crocodile. But as of right now, I don't think we really have enough evidence to create a concrete theory. But I do think Luffy's mother will be somebody that Oda actually develops and gives us a proper story on. Some people believe that Luffy's mom is not going to be important, but I actually believe the opposite. I think her character is going to be critical to developing Dragon's character. And I think at one point Oda made a comment about Luffy's mom being a strong manly figure, but I'm pretty sure he was talking about the Dawn in that case and it was more of a misdirection. But overall, I do believe Luffy's mom's going to be critical to the story of Dragon. Either she's somebody that came into Dragon's life after he started the Revolutionary Army and made him want a family, or she could be directly involved in the reason why Dragon started the Revolutionary Army. Because also in the Weaver cards, we do get a hint at something possibly shady happening in Dragon's past. It was noted that something previously had happened, but his men would still follow him even if they found out about it. So it doesn't exactly sound like something bad that Dragon did, but it doesn't sound like it was good either. But anyways, getting back to the timeline of Dragon, we know he started the Revolutionary Army either before Luffy was born or right around that time. But right after Luffy was born, he gives Luffy off to Garp to look after. And I think the reason why is pretty obvious. He was about to take on the world, so he wasn't gonna endanger his child. And I think that perspective is important when we look at Dragon's character, because appearance wise, he looks pretty scary. He's got a face tattoo, he's looking like Mike Tyson. And because he's had so little screen time and is such a serious person, he doesn't give off that same goofy likability that Luffy and Garp gives off. But I think when we look at the information we've been given about Dragon, it's pretty clear that he's a kind-hearted person as well. Once again, this is something the Weaver cards expand on. It's noted that Dragon values sincerity and discipline within his men, and it also points out that Dragon's ultimate goal is world peace. He has to wage war just because he has to do it, but he doesn't like it. At the end of the day, it just seems like he wants a world where everyone is equal and having a good time. Which, by the way, if you're having a good time watching this video, drop a like for the YouTube algorithm. But yeah, I think Dragon has been built up to be a very layered character that's kind of flown under the radar. I think when the story is finally over, Dragon has the potential to be one of the most interesting and popular characters in the story. One person I like to compare Dragon to is Shanks, because he's another very mysterious character that we've known for a very long time. But unlike Dragon, Shanks has consistently been one of the most popular characters in the story. With the fan popularity polls, Shanks has never dropped out of the top 14. Dragon, on the other hand, has never even cracked top 60. As a matter of fact, his highest position was in the most recent poll at 62. Now, I'm not saying it's unreasonable for him to not be that popular, especially because we haven't seen him too much in the story, but I do think with how low he's rated on those popularity polls goes to show how low-key and underrated his character is. Because like I said in the intro, I think he's one of the most important characters in the story. Not only do I think he's gonna play a major role in the final war, but like I mentioned, his character is very layered and there's a lot of interesting conflicts and mystery surrounding him. One thing I haven't even really talked about is the relationship between Garp and Dragon, which I'm really dying to see. What was that father-son relationship like, especially with the conflicts going on between them? Garp, of course, is a marine hero, meanwhile Dragon is directly going up against the world government. When we get their story in flashback, it's gonna really develop both their characters a lot. And that should also open up the door to the story of Dragon and what really pushed him and motivated him to go up against the world government. Because it does feel like something happened to him that really pushed him to the edge to take this drastic action. And another thing to consider is that this is a character that Oda has planned for a long time. He's been around since chapter 100, he's also Luffy's dad. I definitely do feel like Dragon's story is something that Oda has had planned since the beginning of the story. Now ironically, I actually feel like Dragon and Luffy's relationship is not something that's going to be expanded on too much. At the end of the day, even though Dragon cares for Luffy, they don't really know each other that well. Both of them have pretty much lived separate lives for 19 years, and on Luffy's end, he really hasn't shown any interest on his dad at all. Now like I mentioned, I do think the story of Luffy's mom is going to be pretty important, and Luffy should find out about it and come to some sort of understanding with like his origins essentially. But overall, I think that story and flashback is going to be a lot more meaningful to the readers for us to really understand Dragon's character. In a way, I kind of see Dragon similar to Kaido, where once we find out all the information about him and his story, I think his popularity is going to skyrocket. Now he doesn't necessarily have to get to Shanks' level of popularity because Shanks still has a backstory to be fleshed out, but I think both Kaido and Dragon are going to be much more popular than they are now, especially for Dragon because it does feel like he's being slowly saved up and built up for the grand finale. When it comes time to take down the world government in the final war, obviously Luffy's gonna do the most damage, but Dragon should be right there leading the charge. And at that point, the things that's gonna be happening and the info we're gonna be finding out is gonna be astronomical. And not only that, but the fights that we're gonna be seeing are gonna be some of the highest level fights in the story, which gets me to my final point, which is that we cannot sleep on Dragon's strength. I feel like right now, whenever people talk about strength and power, he's always somebody that's overlooked. And again, it kind of makes sense because we haven't seen anything out of him. Even with somebody like Shanks, we've seen glimpses of him clashing with Whitebeard. We've heard stories about him fighting Mihawk and fighting Kaido. With Dragon, on the other hand, we don't even have any stories. All we have is Dragon versus pre-time skip Smoker. But just because of that, we definitely should not overlook him. He's still the most wanted man in the world, which by the way, I also think he might have the highest bounty in the story. But when it comes to Dragon's strength, here's really the the thing I want you to consider. We know when it's all said and done, Luffy's gonna be perhaps the strongest person ever. Of course, he's the main character, but he's pretty strong as he is right now, and his ability to grow is incredible. But then you have his grandfather, Monkey D. Garp, who is very highly regarded. I think for many people, Garp in his prime is one of the strongest people in history. Of course, he's also proven to be strong. He was always fighting Roger. He also took down the Rock's pirates. So clearly, the Monkey D family has some very strong genes, and they're very respected in terms of power scaling. Yet at the same time, I feel like we don't hold Dragon to the same regard. And again, it makes sense because he hasn't really shown anything in the story, but I think when you consider how strong the rest of his family is and his own ambitions, and also his potential role in the finale of the story, I think Dragon is definitely one of the strongest people in the story. Like honestly, right now, if you had to bet on it, would you say that Dragon doesn't have advanced Haki of all forms? Plus, there's the fact that he could have a very strong broken devil fruit that has something to do with weather. I'm willing to confidently bet that Dragon has one of the best stories in One Piece and is gonna be one of the strongest people. That's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Got another video for you right here to check out, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.